So we're sitting in the new Volkswagen Touareg. We have locked ourselves into the vehicle, pretending we are not in the vehicle, just to show you what happens if you unlock the car. For this purpose, I've got this key here. It's got 3 buttons. The first one is to lock the car, the second one is to open the trunk, and the third one is to unlock the car, which is what I'm going to do now. Nothing happened. We're opening the door, pretending we're entering the car, and the instrument cluster comes to life. Now I'm pressing the start-stop button, and there comes the head unit. Huge 15-inch display. Click the home button. So what do we see? The vehicle's got a classical instrument cluster. On the left side there's the tachometer, on the right side there's the speedometer, and in the central area we got all the features. So it's a typical full digital instrument cluster on the first side. Then on the steering wheel there is 2 multifunctional areas with buttons. There's quite a few buttons you can choose from on the left and on the right side, but we're going to have a look at those later on, more in detail. So what else do we have in this car? Of course there is the head unit. It seems as if it was a huge part of glass, but there's a small seam in the middle. On the right side there is the head unit. It's a huge display of 15-inch diameter, which is basically like a laptop actually. The display itself is not curved, but both displays are slightly bent towards each other, so towards the driver. And we've got a fully digital touch screen, and you can also use gesture control by simply waving, but we will have a closer look on this later on. The climate controls are inside the display as well, so there are no further buttons around that area, and the few buttons we can find in the center console is the Gearshift with the active gear on top of it. Then on the left side there's a button to get into parking positions. There's a start-stop button for the engine, the hazard lights, a large volume button that you can press down for mute as well. We got the parking brake and the auto hold function. And then we've got 2 buttons to change the drive mode and the height of the vehicle. You can see the drive modes in the head unit as well. So you can really get prepared for each driving situation you might be in. And the right button is to change the height of the vehicle, of the chassis. There comes an information on that in the instrument cluster. So depending whether you are in an off-road situation or whether you're traveling in the city. So the whole interior appears quite appealing to us. The display size is quite impressive. We like it very much that the head unit is bent towards the driver, so you really have kind of a cockpit feeling without the displays seeming to be too close to you. As always, of course, further information you will find in our online database screens, and next we're going to have a closer look on the instrument cluster and the head unit. But before that we are going to leave the vehicle, of course. So for that we're going to switch off the ignition, getting a warning regarding the battery, and we're opening the door as if we were leaving. And interestingly, there comes a warning that I shall not forget my cell phone. That's a really good idea. So I confirm that and close the door. So we're actually outside the vehicle now, and we are locking the car. In the instrument cluster, there is some information shown about our last trip, but this should only last a few seconds, and then the whole display should turn black as well. So we are still waiting. And here we go, it's all black now. So let's have a look on the multifunctional steering wheel of the Volkswagen Touareg. We get 2 areas. On the left side there are knobs especially used for active cruise control, like reset and set. Then you can switch on and switch off the active cruise control, and you get some plus and minus buttons to change the distance to the vehicle in front of you. And if you press the button in the middle, it's actually the same happening. You change the distance to the vehicle in front of you, and there is a graphic in the instrument cluster informing you about that distance to the vehicle in front of you. On the bottom, I've got some volume buttons, and on the right side, there's a shortcut to activate the voice control. Then there's on the right side some buttons to scroll through the menu up and down, left and right. There's an OK or confirm button and 2 buttons to flip through menus. And at the bottom there's a view button, as we know it, for instance, from the Audi A8 to reduce the tubes in the instrument cluster. So now let's have a look on the instrument cluster. It's got a classical setup. On the left side there's a tachometer, and on the right side there's a speedometer. And if I click the view button, the tubes get reduced, so you get more information from the center. In the middle there is of course the area where most content is being displayed. You can simply flip through the menu, and there you will find entries like driving data, assistance systems, maps, audio, telephone, vehicle status, head-up display, off-road, driving data, assistance systems. We've been there already, but yeah, we're just flipping through it. But let's have a closer look to all these entries. If I don't press anything, I am being forwarded to the entry, or I can press OK. Here we're in the vehicle status, and we can see that the bonnet is opened, and if I flip through the menu, I can see different menu entries like tire pressure, etc. On the head-up display, same thing. We can switch it on or off. We click on off-road. There are no further options to flip through a sub-menu. If you click on driving data, there's some more entries, and the animations are really appearing very smooth and nicely, as you can see. Under assistance systems, there's lots of entries as well. For the assistance menu, you've got even a shortcut directly on the steering wheel. Oh no, I think that's the wrong button. I have to press the lower one. Here we go. That's the shortcut, and now we are in the assistance system settings again, just as we saw it when clicking on the right side. Then there's navigation next to this, audio, can flip through broadcasting stations. And when I use the lower buttons, I can flip through my favorites. Then there's telephone, the vehicle status, we've been before. Then there is the both tubes on the left and the right side that we can change via a shortcut on the head unit. So now we're going to change the content of the left side. As you can see, it just changed. Or on the right tube, we can get some other information like height. Or you can use a preset setup that you can edit as well, and then save it via long pressing. Or you can click on a shortcut for classic view, where no content is being displayed inside the tubes. There's only tachometer and speedometer left. So that was it on the instrument cluster, and next we're going to have a look on the head unit. So now we're having a look on this incredible 15-inch diameter display. It's divided into like 2 home screens. This is number 1, and as soon as my hand comes close to the display, all the buttons are being displayed and get activated. Then I can swipe with 2 fingers and I see this like second home screen, or I simply can flip between those 2 by clicking on this button, and we can change the entire content, like changing the clocks. Or if I long press on this tile, I can change the content of the tile. So I choose traffic now, and there it is. And same thing works with a large tile where we can see the navigation map. If I long press it, I can simply change the content to, let's say, vehicle status. And inside that I can flip through. So I'll just change it back to navigation. And if I click on this now, it changes to a full screen mode. But we will have a closer look on this later. We'll get back to the reduced screen, and as you can see, this is all touch sensitive. If I use 2 fingers, I swipe between the 2 screens. If I use inside a tile, I will only use 1 finger. If I use 2 fingers, I will flip back to the other main screen. And there's a gesture control as well. So I simply have to wave my hand in front of the display to flip through it. On the left side, there's a sidebar with shortcuts, and 3 of those you can change as you like. If you long press it, you get into a menu where you can simply choose from several favorites via drag and drop. So now we got the sync button as a favorite. And we close this, and in the upper area, there's shortcuts to several features. So there's settings or images or car, phone, etc. If you click on menu, you see all those features like radio, telephone, and stuff. Then in the lower area, there's a classical climate controls. We've got seat ventilation and seat heating on the left side. And we get the same thing on the right side for the passenger. Something interesting that we've seen differently in other cars is that you get the seat ventilation and seat heating from left to right, and on the right side it's still from left to right, but it's not flipped for symmetrical reasons, which would be quite confusing. So then there's air condition, so you get a million possibilities, and there's the auto ventilation, get different settings, and there's temperature as well, of course. So let's go to the menu and the single features. So there's telephone. So I can exit the menu via pressing the button at the bottom or the menu button. So next one is radio. There I can use gesture control as well. And there's media. There's no device connected now. Gonna have a look at that later on. There's vehicle, can use gesture control here as well, or just swipe with 2 fingers. No, that doesn't work, so would I have to click on the icons. Then there's navigation. We'll have a closer look at that later on. Sound settings, just a symbol. So there you go, the typical sound settings. Then there's images. Of course, you would have to have a source connected. Then there's settings. That's the general settings. The settings for each feature you will find in the feature itself. Then app connection. So you can use Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, or MirrorLink. And there is CarNet. And yeah, there's the information that this service isn't available now. Let's go back to the home screen. So that was it on the head unit. It's a huge 15-inch diameter screen. All the animations are done really appealing, and it's really well done. It's really reacting very quick. The display is slightly curved, and it's very intuitive to use, and it's got a really nice design. We liked it a lot.